Takeoff clear. Cleared.
Cleared.
Anti-collision position lights.
On.
As required. Aux boost. On. Air conditioning.
Set.
Mixtures.
On a ridge.
Now flaps.
Setting on a roll.
Before takeoff checklist complete.
Before takeoff checklist complete. Before takeoff checklist completed. BMEP 150. BMEP 150. 150 BMEP set. Ready for takeoff. Max power. Max power.
The place, an airfield in Puerto Rico. The date, September 10th. The aircraft, one of the Navy's largest. The mission, a reconnaissance flight that may help save thousands of lives. Throughout the hurricane belt, an area that extends from the West Indies and Florida, westward to Texas, and northward to New England, the land that borders on the Gulf of Mexico, the Caribbean, and the Atlantic, life still goes on normally.
Here's the latest official Weather Bureau forecast for Greater Miami and the Florida Keys. Fair and warm today and tomorrow with little change in temperature. The outlook for Thursday, cloudy with the possibility of rain at 80%. The weather map shows a low pressure center forming out in the Atlantic that's some 400 miles east of Puerto Rico.
Crew from pilot, we are starting our penetration run. RPM 2600. RPM 2600. Aux boost on.
Aux boost on.
Engineer, maintain my airspeed at 190 knots. Aye, sir. RPM 2600 set. I'm going down to 500 feet. Metro, keep that wind on the wing.
Approaching 500 feet. Metro, steady. Level 500 feet.
Most people at the moment have no idea that trouble may be brewing.
Here is the latest Weather Bureau advisory. The low pressure system reported earlier seems to be growing. The winds are approaching gale force, and there is some movement westward, but it's too early to predict where it may strike.
The reports begin to raise questions in the minds of those who hear them. They wonder, where is it headed? And when and how hard will it strike? The United States Weather Bureau will provide the answers, based on information received from reconnaissance flights by the Navy and the Air Force. The information will be of vital importance not only to the inhabitants of the coastal areas, but also to ships at sea, and the sea is where hurricanes are spawned. They are now photographed by our Earth-orbiting weather satellites. They clearly show the eye of the storm, and also how such a storm spreads out for hundreds of miles. But they do not show the destructive power, which is greater than that of the most powerful thermonuclear bomb. The combined effects of wind and waves, torrential rains, and land-flooding tides caused millions of dollars of damage and have taken a tragic toll of human lives. Early warnings cannot eliminate storm destruction, but they do drastically reduce property damage and loss of human lives. For the Navy's Hurricane Squadron, which operates year-round, the hurricane season begins in June with a formal inspection of all crews at the squadron's home base in Jacksonville, Florida. The official title of the squadron is Airborne Early Warning Squadron 4, or VW4. Its history goes back to 1943, when the Navy first sent its planes into a storm to gather information. At the end of World War II, hurricane reconnaissance became routine naval duty, and the first of 7 squadrons was assigned to the task.
Shelley.
Yes, sir.
Don't you rate another hash mark?
Yes, sir.
Better get her put on.
Yes, sir.
About ready to deploy to Rosie Roads, Chief? Yes, sir, Captain. Isn't your wife about ready to have a baby? Not for another 4 months yet. Can't get out of going then. No, sir. We start the new hurricane season, and the squadron will deploy a detachment to Naval Station Roosevelt Roads. Our primary mission is hurricane reconnaissance, and we'll expect a full 100% from every man all the time.
With 198 going in the calendar and even inspection, Skipper, I anticipate on having all the aircraft ready for your deployment.
Outstanding. We were all at the weather briefing this morning. We heard what they had to say and we saw the chart. We better be ready because we might have to move out before we expect it.
Nerves begin to tighten as the men of the squadron complete the tasks of readying every aircraft for its rigorous assignments. Installing wingtip fuel tanks, replacing propellers, and checking electronic gear. The aircraft are named after some of the most vicious hurricanes they have faced. A 1954 storm that struck New England, taking 95 lives and causing $250 million of damage. A 1964 storm, loss of life, 3 people, property damage, $130 million. And the most destructive in history, the destroyer of 27,000 homes in 1965. The flight crews take turns going to Puerto Rico, where many reconnaissance flights are initiated. It's time for crew number 1, the skipper's own crew, to depart on the 900-mile trip to Puerto Rico, where they will be that much nearer to the hurricane's birthplace.
I feel like I'm always forgetting something. You gonna be all right? Give me a kiss, I gotta go. All right, come on, line up now, line up. Come on, Brian, get in on the end over there like you belong. Come on now, fall in over there, listen. Now you guys be good and do your chores while I'm gone, and if everybody's pretty good, I'll bring you something nice from Rosie, okay?
It's time to go looking for trouble, finding it, taking its measure, and reporting it. The crews are based at Naval Station Roosevelt Roads, or Rosie Roads as it's called, on Puerto Rico's east coast. The station was established during World War II. Just prior to the flight to the storm area, the crew assembles in the detachment ready room for a complete briefing.
Reached 30 knots, just about 2/3 of the way to the storm, and then increased rapidly to 50 knots, about 55 miles from the eye. There was a opening in the eye wall with only scattered clouds visually as we made the run-in.
Could I interrupt a minute, Bud? Was the temperature and pressure eye pretty close together after you got in?
The pressure, temperature, and wind eye all coincided. A minimum sea level pressure we observed was 987 millibars.
Do you have any communications problems, Bud?
No, sir. We worked fleet weather jacks the entire trip. After we came out of the eye, we exited in pretty much the same position that we penetrated the eye. we experienced some turbulence. Matter of fact, we had one real good jolt. After we left the eye, started around to gather our peripheral data, we got up to this point and radar indicated that the eye was closing.
Hey, Bud, how well did these rain bands and the eye wall pan up on radar?
Real well. The diameter on the initial penetration was 23 miles, and when we observed it from this point up here on radar, it indicated it was about 13 to 14 miles in diameter. So therefore it is tightening up. Any other questions?
In observing a squadron tradition, crew names are written on the wheel. When the plane returns, the name at the bottom will win the privilege of picking up the celebration tab.
Seatbelts and shoulder harness.
Lock.
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 Take off clearance.
Call for clearance.
Navy here, Echo 892, Rosie Tower, surface wind 150 degrees at 6, cleared for takeoff.
We're cleared. Cleared. And a collision position lights. On. As required. Aux boost. On. Air conditioning.
Set.
Mixtures.
On a ridge.
Now flaps.
Setting on the roll.
Before takeoff checklist complete.
Before takeoff checklist complete. Before takeoff checklist completed. BMEP 150. BMEP 150. 150 BMEP set. Ready for takeoff. Max power. Max power.
These planes are well suited to their task. They have the capacity to carry a lot of electronic gear, and they are able to stay in the air many hours without refueling. They are strongly built and can withstand the heaviest winds and turbulence. At times, they fly through rainfall so heavy that it comes close to being a solid wall of water. But the plane and the crew can take it. Each man in the crew has his particular duties and responsibilities. The captain, as plane commander, is responsible for the aircraft and the safety of the crew. The flight engineer monitors aircraft systems and engine performance. The navigator pinpoints the exact location of the eye of the hurricane and the exact position of the aircraft at all times. The Control Information Center team answers to the code name SECO. They operate the radar and keep an accurate plot of the plane's movements and the storm's location. Final penetration to the eye will be made at 500 feet, which leaves no room for error. The meteorologist, known as Metro, record sea conditions, pressures, and other related data. On a single flight, information can be gathered on an area of 1.5 million square miles.
Altitude 1,000 feet, temperature 22 degrees. Let me check what the computer's got back here.
We're approaching one of the rain bands. It looks like it's pretty rough, but I've got a soft spot. Recommend you come left to 150.
Pilot, roger. Left to 150. Steady on 150. Seco Metro. request range and bearing to the eye.
Metro Seco, eye is 090, 100 miles.
Okay, I got a pressure of 1002.5 millibars. The wind is 330 at 35 knots. Log that.
Wind velocities are indicated by the appearance of the sea. Whitecaps indicate winds up to 60 miles per hour. As much as man has learned about hurricanes, a name that comes from an old Carib Indian word, hurricane, meaning big wind, he has not yet discovered how they are born. But he has learned how to observe their physical characteristics, wind force, sea state, barometric pressures, and speed of movement.
Pilot, Metro, this is Seco. Go ahead, Seco. The eye is well defined now, almost closed. It bears 060 at 70 miles. Roger.
This is Metro, Roger.
Our next penetration's due in 30 minutes, Captain.
Captain, we have all the information we need on our peripheral run. I request you come aft for a penetration conference.
Roger, Metro. I'll be right back. Pilot to crew. Check aircraft. Secure all loose gear. You got it. Okay, I've got it.
Skipper, we're already getting 70 to 80 knots of wind at the present. And I estimate the winds in the eye wall can be as high as 120 knots. This puts her in the class with Beulah.
Captain, I recommend we take a penetration heading from here of 040 degrees, and that will take us to the left rear quadrant. You concur, Metro?
I concur, yes, sir.
What's the diameter of the eye? Right now, we're painting a 17-mile radar eye, and it looks like it's decreasing. If that thing gets to 15 miles, I will abort the penetration. Yes, sir. If we do abort, I recommend you pick up a heading of 300, and that'll take us out through here. Okay, you're bringing me down in here to this point where you'll turn me into a point of penetration at a 040 degree heading. All right, that sounds okay to me. If I have to abort, I will make a left turn to a 300 degree heading. Okay, Seco, if you lose radar contact, pass the control on the Metro. Yes, sir.
Roger.
Any questions? No, sir.
No, sir.
Okay, let's strap in, make the run. We're ready to make our run. Okay, fine. Pilot Seco, turn left, the heading is 040. Roger, turning left to 040 degrees. Steady, 040 degrees. Seco, Roger, this is the penetration heading. Eye is dead ahead, 18 miles. Your escape heading remains 300. Crew from pilot, we are starting our penetration run. RPM 2600. RPM 2600. I'm switched on. Engineer, maintain my airspeed at 190 knots. Aye, sir. RPM 2600 set. I'm going to take it down to 500 feet. Metro, keep that wind on the wing. Approaching 500 feet. Metro, level 500 feet.
Roger, pilot. I can see the water. It looks real good. The wind is right on.
Pools of foam indicate winds of 60 to 90 miles per hour. Tension rises as the turbulence increases and as the plane flies only 500 feet above the churning sea. When the spray is pulled out into long ropes and streamers, the wind is above 90 miles per hour.
Doppler winds 310 at 112, 112 knots, drift angle 30 degrees right. Make that 35 degrees right.
Pilot Seco, come left, 360.
Roger, left 360 degrees.
Wall cloud, dead ahead.
Roger, dead ahead.
Metro Seco. I've lost the wall cloud, you have the control.
Roger, this is Metro. I have the con.
Roger, Metro, you have the con. Metro, keep the wind on the wing.
The surface wind is slightly forward to the port wing, 310 degrees, 120 knots. That looks real good. The wind is on the wing now. Pressure is dropping rapidly. I read 310, 120 knots down there. I still have the water inside. It looks real good. Pilot the Metro, our true altitude is 470 feet. The wind is getting slightly aft of the wing. Recommend you come left 15 degrees.
Roger, left 15 degrees.
Doppler winds 340 degrees, 125, 125 knots, over.
Roger now. We're in the clear, just a little scud below us.
When the plane enters the hurricane's eye, where the blue sky can be seen overhead, there is sudden calm.
Well, that was a rough one. Crew from pilot, all stations report any damage. We're in the eye. Metro?
Metro eye.
How much time do you figure we'll need to be in here?
I'll need about 3 orbits to get the information I need to determine the pressure, temperature, and wind eye. That should take about 30 to 40 minutes, pilot.
Okay, you got it.
Nav, this is Metro.
Nav eye.
Stand by for a mark on center location. Mark, this is the area of lowest pressure.
Center location, 20, 20 degrees, 15 minutes north, 62 degrees, 30 minutes west. Max flight level winds on run in was 340 at 128 knots. 340 degrees, 128 knots. 15 nautical miles from the center.
Roger, Nav. Thank you very much.
Nav eye.
Get all that? Okay.
While the aircraft orbits inside the eye, the radio operator transmits the vital data to the Navy Fleet Weather Facility at Jacksonville.
Temperature and pressure figures 2015 north, 6030 west, at time 1800 Zulu. Center determination positive by Doppler navigation. Max surface winds figures 125 knots.
Here, the plane's report is combined with information from other sources. Computerized data that includes radar and satellite observations and Weather Bureau information. The data are evaluated and processed for forwarding to the Miami Hurricane Center, which keeps Weather Bureau offices in the storm area informed hourly if necessary. Storm advisories are issued to the various news services. These serve the network and local radio and television stations.
Hurricane Estella, by far the strongest of this young season, is now aiming her full fury at the east coast of Florida. According to the latest advisory, the storm is located 200 miles due east of Cape Kennedy with
a tropical storm now north of Puerto Rico has become a full-fledged hurricane.
Estella is moving in a west-northwesterly course toward Jacksonville, Florida, at about 10 miles an hour. A hurricane warning is in effect from Miami to Wilmington, North Carolina, and tides are already running above normal along much of that coastline. Bryson Rash, WRC News, Washington.
With the reports filed, there is a sense of relief, a satisfaction with a mission accomplished, and an opportunity to relax on the return flight.
Okay, full flaps, 2600. Let's get her down easy.
Hey, P-A-T. No, sir. You got it. Okay, Paul, that's beautiful.
Some missions have required spending as many as 15 hours in the air. But every crew is ready to go out again, if necessary, in weather that grounds other flights, civilian and military. Squadron VW4 has flown nearly 700 tropical storm missions in 25 years of year-round weather reconnaissance. In the 20-odd years before early warning came into being, over 4,000 lives were lost in hurricanes. Since then, casualties have been reduced some 90%. Knowledge, courage, dedication. That's the story of the Hurricane Squadron, United States Navy.
This is a routine takeoff for one aircraft of Airborne Early Warning Squadron 4. But there's nothing routine about the aircraft itself. A specially configured super constellation equipped with some of the most powerful airborne radar ever built. Nor is there anything routine about the crew inside. For this aircraft is part of a squadron with a mission that is unique in Navy history. A squadron which has earned the name it bears, the Hurricane Hunters. Yes, these are the Hurricane Hunters, men who dare to fly into the very eye of a hurricane to gain information that will save hundreds of lives each year by warning in advance where and when a hurricane will strike and how violent it will be. A hurricane is an awesome demonstration of nature on a rampage. Under the impact of up to 150-mile-an-hour winds, the seas will become raging mountains of waves, on which great warships toss like tiny toys. And when a hurricane strikes the shores, tearing at everything in its path with the energy equivalent of hundreds of atomic bombs, millions of dollars of damage will be done, and precious human lives will be lost. What can be done about stopping these rampaging hurricanes which yearly form over the water and travel inland to devastate the coastal areas? The answer is, at present, nothing. Suggestions for stopping a hurricane have ranged from seeding the huge masses of storm clouds with dry ice to dropping an atom bomb in its midst. None of these theories seem workable, especially when you consider that a hurricane may cover thousands of square miles and contain millions of tons of energy. But the tragic loss of life can be reduced if people receive sufficient early warning. A few years ago, for every $10 million of property damage caused by hurricanes in the United States, about 400 people lost their lives. Today, that figure has been reduced from 400 to only 4 lives lost, which means that 99 out of 100 lives formerly lost are being saved by early warning. This great safety record results directly from the founding at Miami in 1943 of a joint hurricane warning center, where the Navy maintains a fleet weather facility. The Joint Hurricane Warning Center coordinates weather information from the United States Weather Bureau, the Navy, and the Air Force to provide up-to-the-minute knowledge of all hurricanes and hours of precious warning time. Here at the Navy's Fleet Weather Facility, every one of the millions of square miles included within known hurricane breeding grounds is kept under constant surveillance. Most hurricanes breed in any one of 3 definite areas: the Gulf of Mexico, the Caribbean area, and eastward in the tropical Atlantic as far out as the Cape Verde Islands. Regularly scheduled Navy reconnaissance flights are operated into the Gulf of Mexico and into the tropical Atlantic. In addition, Navy men and planes are ready on an hour's notice to probe any part of the skies where a suspicious area has been reported. These special and regular flights by the Hurricane Hunters are another Navy contribution to hurricane warning. Because the long-range super constellations, heavily loaded with fuel and equipment, require the facilities of major naval air stations, the Hurricane Hunters are based at present in Jacksonville and Puerto Rico. Typical reconnaissance missions begin early in the morning, although ground crews and radar technicians often have worked through the night to have the plane and its complex radar equipment ready for flight. The crew is a big one, 22 officers and men, making up the basic flight crew, weather team, and radar team. These are hand-picked men, specially trained technicians, all of them. Before this day is over, the mission will cover more than 2,400 miles and last 12 to 15 hours, a long time in the air. The flight crew, captained by the plane commander, controls actual flight operations throughout the mission. The weather team gathers and records all types of meteorological data as the plane flies through the hurricane breeding grounds. The radar team monitors the electronic equipment, which ranges over thousands of square miles of ocean to find and track storms, and to probe for soft spots in the hurricane once penetration begins. Hour after hour, the plane flies on, following a definite track over the great ocean areas. On these long missions, a well-equipped galley is used to prepare full, wholesome meals. And of course, coffee, lots of it. For crew members not on watch, there are tables, used both for eating and just relaxing. There are bunks where they can catch a quick nap, and comfortable reclining seats for reading and socializing. Pleasant? Sometimes. But at any moment, on any given day, this is what can happen in hurricane breeding grounds. Toward the end of the scheduled run, the plane's search radar picks up a suspicious-looking cloud swirl. The weather team checks the radar sighting and finds falling pressure on the barometer. Even more ominous, the air outside the plane shows increased humidity. A look at the water below shows there are high surface winds from the west and northerly swells. To experienced observers, these signs add up to the suspicion that a hurricane is brewing. After more tracking, a special radio report giving temperature, barometric, and humidity readings is sent to the Joint Hurricane Warning Center. There, the report is entered on a map, along with any additional information from passing ships. In very little time, the meteorological experts complete their evaluation. This has all the signs of a hurricane in the making. The routine reconnaissance flight is nearing its end, so the decision is made to alert the Hurricane Hunters for a special investigative flight. The alert message reaches the commanding officer of the Hurricane Hunters on a direct line teletype in his office. The message reads, set Hurricane Reconnaissance Status 1, take off soonest. Suspicious area near 17 degrees, 15 minutes north latitude, 57 degrees, 10 minutes west longitude, shows signs of developing into a tropical disturbance. Make low-level investigation and 700 millibar drop. Within seconds after receiving the message, the alert is sounded. Throughout the squadron, members of the alert crew leave their routine duty assignments. Within minutes, the crew is in flight gear and ready to go. The pilot, co-pilot, and navigator report first to the squadron meteorology office, where they join the radar control officer and flight meteorologist. The senior meteorologist conducts the briefing, which gives them the latest information on the weather they can expect en route and at the suspicious area. The alerted crew gathers beside the plane for a quick briefing.
Okay, our orders are to take off soonest and leave MH3. They are presently reporting 45 to 50 knots of wind in the storm. We expect to hit more than that. Now, weather and radar, you'll get more specific briefings from your officers en route. I'll take care of flight. Are there any quick questions? Okay.
It often takes hours to fly to the area of disturbance designated by the Joint Hurricane Center. But thanks to the technical knowledge and precision equipment at their command, the Hurricane Hunters have no trouble or hesitation in locating and assessing the intensity of the storm they are approaching.
Flight weather. Looks like we have a real live one here. Radar showing a real good eye. Clocking winds up to 50 knots. Request come left to 020 for low-level penetration.
Hi, Roger. Coming left, 020.
The hurricane lies ahead. Now comes the most dangerous part of this flight, to penetrate the turbulent walled clouds of the storm, braving the flailing rain and winds until the eye is reached.
All stations from flight, commencing penetration now. Weather and radar, keep me advised.
Holding the surface wind visually. Request come left, another 10 degrees. Wind's now in the port beam. How's that look to you, radar?
Looks good to me. Heavy weather on port and ahead. I'll keep you informed.
While penetrating the hurricane, the aircraft flies approximately 500 to 1,000 feet off the water, keeping the surface wind broad on the port wing so that the aircraft is always headed in toward the eye of the hurricane.
Present true altitude, 700 feet. Request come left, 20 degrees.
This heading will take us into heavy weather. If you have a hole farther to port, recommend you continue turn 10 more degrees port.
Roger. Concur with radar. Continue turn 10 degrees.
Roger.
As the hurricane hunters penetrate deeper into the storm, the noise of the rain on the fuselage is unbelievable. It almost drowns out the roar of the engines.
Very heavy rain radar. What do you hold on your scope now?
This is radar. There are no holes ahead. You're going to have to punch through. I'll try to keep you out of the heavy stuff. Flight this weather. Losing contact with the water. Clouds are dropping down on us quite a bit.
Let's drop down another 200 feet.
Roger. Descending to 500 feet.
The pilot and the entire crew are well aware that descent toward the raging surface is risky business, but it must be done. Around the eye of the hurricane is a wall of turbulent clouds. Low-level penetration through this most dangerous area of the storm keeps the crew tense as the plane bounces up and down, torn from right to left, for minutes that seem like hours. Until suddenly, the plane breaks through into the quiet, sunlit area, which is the eye of the hurricane.
We're in the clear.
Back surface wind clocked at 120 knots.
The primary information required by forecasters to predict the severity of a hurricane is hidden in and about the eye. As the plane flies around the circle formed by black wall clouds, the weather team gathers its information. Surface pressures, temperatures, humidities, and winds. The details of all their findings are relayed every 30 minutes to the warning center in Miami. When sufficient low-level data is collected, the plane climbs to approximately 10,000 feet, and later to 20,000 feet to obtain high-level information. From the 10,000 and above levels, cloud formations can be observed on radar, and in some cases, visually. At these altitudes, the clear center of the eye can be seen surrounded by the circular mass of the cloud wall. At designated points in the area, drop zones are prepared for ejection from the aircraft. When released, they will parachute down to the surface, relaying to the plane's radio operator by Morse code the atmospheric pressures, temperatures, and humidities encountered on the way down.
Okay, has everybody got everything he wants?
Roger. We've all the weather information we need here, but we have to get peripheral data from Miami. Recommend we go 300 miles northeast of center.
Roger, weather. Radar, give me a course out of here.
Roger. Looks softer to the south. I recommend come left 240.
Roger.
Now comes the problem of going back. Once again, the big super constellation noses into the hurricane. Once again, the straining at the controls. The turbulent winds. The thunder of rain on the fuselage. And the almost unbearable tension. Finally, the plane flies into the clear, outside the swirling storm. Once out of the hurricane, the crew resumes investigation, this time to gather important data on the storm's periphery. For days to come, one plane will relieve another to maintain a continuous watch. So much information is needed. Size of hurricane, its direction and speed of movement, wind velocities, type of clouds, how far the winds extend outward. The information gathered is regularly reported by radio to Miami. At the Hurricane Center, the information is entered as rapidly as it is received. It gives the most accurate picture possible of the hurricane as seen by the hunters on the spot. A picture that increases in detail every hour. After days of round-the-clock tracking, weather experts at the center can see that the hurricane is bearing down on the coast. The center's teletype operators continue sending hurricane forecasts to all areas in the path of the storm. Special radio bulletins go out to ships at sea. Endangered vessels turn from their normal courses in order to avoid the storm. Hurricane warning flags fly at all threatened ports. Planes at military stations take off for alternate safe bases away from the storm's path. Beaches and shore points are evacuated. People throughout the area batten down their belongings, including windows and roofs, and prepare to take shelter. Soon, the first strong gusts of wind begin battering exposed areas. When the storm reaches its peak, the hurricane winds and slashing rain cause property damage, of course. But the people who were warned in ample time are prepared and safe. Hundreds of lives will be saved this day, thanks to the men whose routine job it is to fly into the very eye of a dangerous tropical hurricane. The Navy men who proudly wear the emblem of the Hurricane Hunters.